Hi, I'm Michael Santos with the Earning Freedom podcast, and I really am very excited to be sharing some stories with the men inside of the state of Maine prison. And I would encourage you, if you're going through the mastermind program that I created, I encourage you to take the initiative and write any questions that you may have so that I can respond. Because one thing that I can assure you is I am 100% authentic and transparent, and there is nothing that I wrote in that lesson plan that I don't feel very passionately about, that I don't feel as if, because I truly feel that if you embrace these strategies that I tried to share with you, you are going to emerge from this experience much stronger than if you don't. And the reality is, it's not an overnight fix. But transforming your life takes a long period of time. As you will have read through that course, it took me 26 years inside of federal prisons of every security level before I returned to society. But because I made this investment in improving my life, in learning and in educating myself, I came back to society much stronger than anyone would have expected. In fact, you can see that through these banners behind me. I build my career around my journey. I try and share strategies that work for me because these aren't strategies that are unique to me. They're strategies that I learned from masterminds that go back to Socrates, masterminds that go back to Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, so many other people. And these strategies worked for me. And that is what brings me to the purposes of this video, because I received a letter from James. And James is confined there inside of the Maine State Prison. And I really want to applaud James for taking the time to write to me and ask me a question so that I could clarify what I meant. So I'm going to take the time here to read James's question, and I'm going to respond to the best of my ability. So James wrote, Michael, I can understand the aspiration, actions, and goal setting of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, but how do they compare to a personal role model such as Aristotle, Martin Luther King, etc.? To me, the former are just technological leaders and don't make a big positive impact on our lives, where the latter has really opened our eyes to see the error of the ways of humanity, and it gives us ways to change society's values and not just technology. And then he asked also, in lesson 6 or 7, you quoted someone, and it reminded me of Immanuel Kant, who said there is no common sense. Common sense is just a collection of prejudices occurred by the age of 18 or 19. And so, James, I really want to thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. But let me try and respond what I'm trying to do through this coursework. When I talk about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, I was inspired by leaders who have had a transformative effect on the world, and certainly they have. While you're incarcerated, you may not see it, but the reality is 25 years ago or 30 years ago, before I got in trouble with the criminal justice system, computers weren't that big of an influence on society. Certainly, we did not have the internet. At that time, we didn't have cell phones when I walked into prison. Not everybody had a computer, but not everybody knew how to use a computer. But today, it is a staple of human life, and it has really advanced humanity. Because of technology, we're able to share ideas and share stories, and that has really led to the transformation of the world. Let me give you a very clear example. For decades, people in the Middle East have been oppressed by tyrannical leaders. And regardless of how much military force and strength was used, they could not undo that tyranny in the Middle East. But because of the advancement of technology, people in the Middle East were able to expose themselves to new ideas. And those new ideas helped them see that there was a better way than what existed in countries like Syria and Iran and Iraq, and countries that where the people were oppressed. And once they got news of how the rest of the world operated, they caused a revolt. And that revolt, I think it was called the Spring Uprising or something along those lines. And it happened while I was in prison. But the important lesson here is it's technology that helped spread those ideas. So technology really it changes our world, and we can thank people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and other leaders from my perspective. Not everybody will share this perspective, but the efforts and the investment that they made in building something that could influence the lives of every single citizen on the planet and also advance lives on the planet has had a profound impact. So I was inspired by people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs in the same way that I was inspired by people like Socrates and Martin Luther King. You see, it's kind of like a team. And on a team, everybody plays a certain position. You've probably heard this analogy before, okay? I cannot be the quarterback for anybody's life, but maybe I can be a tackle and open a hole so somebody else can see a way to drive through. Every individual has to be the quarterback of his or her own life and has to lead their life in such a way that will help advance them from where they are to where they want to go. So I've learned that from leaders like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Why? Because they had a vision when they began. They had a vision for Bill Gates, it was, I have a vision of putting a computer on every desk. And because he had that vision, he articulated a plan. He defined a plan that would help him get there from A to B to C. And then he built a team and he made sure that everybody on the team was doing their part. And because everybody worked together, they ended up realizing the vision. So technology has advanced. With Steve Jobs, he gave a quote that I remember and it inspired me along the way. He said, "Good leaders copy ideas, but great leaders steal ideas." And he was a master of stealing ideas from many people who lived before him. And he looked from people from every discipline, such as Gandhi, such as musicians, such as athletes. And he would look to them and he'd say, how did they become the best in the world at what they do? And then he tried to employ those same strategies into his own life. And that's what I would suggest that you do. If you're in prison, I would really suggest that you start working in such a way that you can prepare yourself for success and to emerge differently from the way that you are right now. So right now, you're in a difficult situation. I would urge you, look to leaders from every area of life, whether that leader is from sports, whether it's from music, whether it is from technology, whether it is from philosophy. We can learn from everybody. And that's really was some insight that helped me, that I learned from masterminds, and that I'm doing the best that I can to share with my brothers who are incarcerated right now, to try and be some type of beacon of hope so that they can understand, regardless of what challenges you're going through, you can make it through. So I'm Michael Santos with Earning Freedom Podcast, with webinars and just, this is just an effort that I try to make every day to try and spread the strategies that worked for me, with hopes that you, James, and your brothers there inside of the Maine State Prison can use these same strategies to bring meaning and relevance into your life and find a way to contribute so that every day it has the opportunity to influence a better outcome for you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to respond to your question, James. And I would really encourage you, if you have any others, please send them. I will do my best to respond. They may not always be the answers that you agree with, but I can assure you I will always be authentic and I will never say anything that I didn't personally live and experience. Thank you very much.